illustrate in detail how the overlap of these organizations and their division of labor works, and most importantly, the organizing that has been successful in pushing them back, which can then open a discussion for us. And just kind of following off of Jaime's comments, I was at an event with Angela Davis 10 years ago, and she said, I had a great lawyer when I was in jail, but it's the movement that got me out. And it's just a reminder of our role in backlash. So please, and Rasmea's case is a great example, as is Hakeem. Yeah.
Hello everyone, it's me again. So before I start talking about Rasmea, Max's conversation, great job Max, first of all. But it kind of reminded me of something that how we had in St. Louis recently at a university in St. Louis, and on a much smaller scale. Like we did not ask the students to get us the names of the funders who were financing the government, the student body or administration or whatever. We just had we received this weird email from Webster University in a co-event with the Jewish Federation, the JCRC. And they had this symposium about the reconciliation between Jews and Palestinians. And of course, they had a panel that only had one person from Israel, a female Jewish professor, and they did not have any Palestinians on that panel. But it talks about the reconciliation. And of course, they mentioned the word conflict 21 times and never mentioned the word occupation and all. There was so many things that were problematic with it. So as a reaction, we at the PSC, we approached the university and we told them that we would like to have at least a film series to that symposium was only attended by the JCRC people who show up to every JCRC event that's there. There were very few students there. We ended up having, after months and months of deliberation, we ended up having a Palestinian film series. So we look at the brochure and we're like, yes, finally we did it. We look at the brochure and then on the flyer they had our movies, Slingshot Hip Hop, When I Saw You, and Anwar. And on the other side they had the humanitarian series. And in it there were 3 movies that were sponsored by the GCRC. So it's like the simplest things. They would not allow you to have the simplest things. Like and especially with culture, because one of the most amazing things about Palestinians is that they were able to maintain their culture and through film, through music, through poetry, and that's very dangerous for them. On the other hand, so like I said earlier, I'm a member of the United States Palestinian Community Network, and one of the major cases that we have been working on recently is the case of Rasmea Oudeh. Can we, before I start talking about her, I have a few slides that I would like to play. No, I'll do that. We're going to turn off the lights, and I want you to read, I'm not going to read the slides, I want you to read the testimony of Rasmea Oudeh after she was released from Israeli prison. Can we turn off the lights?
Yeah, I don't know.
In 1996, the Israeli Defense Forces raided 500 Palestinians' houses and detained all of them with no charges. One of the people who were detained was Rasmiya Odeh. She lived in Ramallah. She was a 22-year-old student. And after 45 days of continuous torture, the torture that you were just reading about, she worried for her father's life, and she decided to confess to a crime she did not commit. She was detained in prison for 10 years, and upon her release, she was forced out of Palestine, her homeland, and that's how she ended up in the US. She's lived in the US for 25 years. She spent 50 years of her life dedicated to Palestinians' human rights, especially Palestinian women's human rights. She is known in Chicago not just as a Palestinian grassroots activist, but also in other communities outside the Palestinian community. She's very well known and loved. I did not meet Rasmiya when I joined USPCN, but this year I had the privilege of meeting her, and she's one of them. She just makes me proud to be Palestinian. She has this wonderful smile all the time on her face. She's extremely strong. It's painful how strong she is. So she's almost 70 years old now, and you would think for someone who's been through all of this over the years is now the time for them to, now she's an American citizen. It's time for her to move on with her life, be honored for all the great work that she has done. Last year, she was arrested again, this time by the US government, the US Homeland Security. I would like to read her word for word because my English doesn't help me sometimes. What was she? She was charged with unlawful procurement of naturalization for allegedly not disclosing her disclosing her being detained in a foreign country and her permanent residency application 20 years ago. I have to say that Rasmiya Odeh is not the first Palestinian woman to be raped by the Israeli forces, and most definitely not the last one. But she was the first to testify on a special UN Geneva Convention about that rape. So she made her torture and rape public years and years ago. So basically, we all know why she's being prosecuted right now. She's being prosecuted for being an activist. So one of the things that the USPCN have done is that they had those lawyers for her, and we found out that what's the judge name? Judge Paul Borman, the judge that was assigned to her case. We found out later that he had historical financial connections to Israel, funding Israel, and her lawyers kept at it until they were able to remove him off the case. Now her new judge is called Gershwin Drain. He came under fire for his stance against the death penalty and mandatory minimum sentences, which is a great victory. We have been able to mobilize people to attend every single hearing up until this date with people from everywhere, just mobilizing from Chicago, from St. Louis, from Detroit, because the hearing is in Detroit. But we still need people to show up on the most important hearing, which is coming up on October 2nd. This is the most important one. You will find a flyer in the folder that you received upon registration. In that flyer, you will find how you can help. You can either join the Facebook group for updates. You can make a donation to the FBI, stopthefbi.net/donation. Don't tell anyone I said that. Stays in this room. We also need you to talk to your communities. When we were mobilizing for Gaza, for example, in St. Louis, we were giving out those flyers to everybody in that demonstration. What was happening in Gaza was terrible, but the prosecution of Palestinian people is also happening here in the US, and people need to know about that. On the last day of my delegation last year in Palestine, I asked the delegate leader from Adala, after I had visited Al-Araqib, the Bedouins, whose houses were destroyed 58 times by the time I was there. They were destroyed many more times after I left. I was so depressed. I had seen what happened in Jerusalem. I had seen Haifa, and I was just heartbroken towards the end. And I was like, can someone please give me hope? Like, tell me one good story before I go home. Like, I want one good story. And he said, I'll give you two great things that you have to remember. The first thing is that our movement is being currently led by women, and that's a great thing. The second thing is that you are here. There are Americans on the strip who care about Palestine, who keep coming back every single year. And those people need to go back and tell the story to the other people around them so that they know the truth, because that's the only way. And the third thing is that oppression really never lasts. So we know that Razmia will be free and everything will be fine, but we need to mobilize, and we need our communities to know about her. And I hope that you take that with you after this conference. Thank you very much.